I'm a journalist. Well, I'm trying to be. What I'm about to tell you is a condensed version of a college project that I had started but did not finish. Why? To be frank, if I had turned this in, no one would have believed me. The funny thing is, when I first started, I thought I found the story of a lifetime. You see, after an intense amount of brainstorming and a lot of scouring the dark recesses of the internet, I found something of merit. In Italy, there is a small village of people who had still worshipped Ceres. She was the Roman goddess of agriculture and fertility. Her Greek counterpart, Demeter, some of you guys might be more familiar with. Even luckier for me, or so I thought at the time, they had a festival coming up in the dedication to her called the Irella. It took place about mid-April and was a week long. It was a few months away at the time, and that would have been long enough for me to put a team together and plan a trip. I was able to get in contact with a liaison who worked with the village. His name was Roberto, and apparently he was an expert on it. I shot him an email about how I wanted to do a piece on the festival, and to my surprise, he replied rather quickly. Chloe, if you are positive that you would like to do a college report on these people, I can help you. There are a few things you must know, however. These people take their worship for Ceres very seriously. You must follow their laws exactly. If you do not, they will consider it a great disrespect to their goddess. Any sort of disrespect against her might complicate things and make your trip more dangerous than anticipated. All they ask is that you respect their culture, and things should go smoothly. The Ludi Ceres is a very beautiful festival, which I'm sure you and your peers will enjoy. If you're still interested, I will send you their laws and more information on where you will be staying. I look forward to hearing from you. Roberto. I was ecstatic. Things were falling into place. I emailed him back, and soon I had received instructions on how to get there once I had arrived in Italy. He also sent their list of laws as promised. It was all pretty much common sense stuff. No stealing, especially from crops or livestock. No getting violent with each other or the townspeople, unless it is a part of the festivities. No breaking and entering, and so on. The only one that really stood out was, you are not allowed to leave Irella once it is started, as it would be considered a great disrespect to Ceres. Afterwards, I got my team together. It was just a couple of my buddies, and they were people that I knew I worked well with and had done a couple of projects with before. My cinematographer Ryan, my photographer Beth, who also happened to be a big help when it came to taking notes, my video editor Jack, and myself, of course, the lead reporter. I was going to be in charge of writing the report, being the on-camera reporter, and for interviews. I forwarded them the letter from Roberto, the laws, and the rest of the research that I'd done via the internet. It wasn't long before we were on a plane bound for Italy. This is gonna be awesome. I've never been to Italy, Beth said as we boarded the plane. We're gonna have a little bit of downtime before Roberto comes to pick us up, and so we can explore Rome for a bit too, I added. Roberto? Ryan asked. Our liaison, Jack informed him. Did you even read through that stuff that was sent? It's important. Come on, man, try to be professional. Calm down, I'll look over it tonight, Ryan replied. You better, I added. They take their culture very seriously. I already said I would, Ryan complained. Geez, Mom, give me a break. I rolled my eyes and we all took our seats. A long nap, and a few hours later, we had arrived. From the airport, we took a taxi to our hotel room in Rome. Roberto wouldn't be picking us up until the next afternoon, so we would spend the night exploring Rome. Thankfully, Jack was fluent in Italian, since it was the only language his grandmother spoke. We had bought a few trinkets and souvenirs while there was still daylight, and when night fell, we went to a couple of the local pubs. No getting too drunk, I told them as I used the bar counter to support myself. We've got to be up and running tomorrow. You've got it, boss. Jack laughed before turning to the bartender and ordering us another round. I wasn't sure what we were drinking since he had ordered it in Italian, but it was good. So good that I had to make a pit stop in the bathroom, fearing that I was going to be sick. I pushed my way through the crowd into the bathroom and hovered over the toilet for a few seconds before ultimately deciding that I didn't need to vomit. I headed over to the sink and splashed some water on my face. With a deep sigh, I went outside to get a breath of fresh air. Just as I was about to rejoin my group, an older woman approached me. Hi, I started. I don't speak Italian. The woman clearly did not understand me, as she'd begun to speak Italian. I'm not sure what she was saying, but she seemed to be upset. It wasn't long before she started to yell. I'm sorry, I don't. I stammered as I noticed my friends heading towards us. Jack, can you help me out here? Jack had said something to her, but she had only seemed to become more frustrated with us. Whatever they were saying seemed to be intense. Eventually, Jack lightly grabbed my shoulders and began to lead me and the rest of the group away. Addio, he said firmly as we headed back to the hotel room. What was that about? I asked. The locals were telling me that she was the town crazy, and so it doesn't matter, he answered. Come on, Jack, I want to know. I went on with a slight hiccup. Maybe this could be a good opening piece. I doubt it, Jack replied. Look, she was giving us a warning. She told us to go home. Jack paused before continuing. Did you tell her where we were going or what we were doing here? No, I couldn't if I wanted to. You're the only one that knows Italian, I reminded him. Why? Does she know something that we don't? No, Jack responded as he shook his head. She probably just hates tourists. Come on, let's get to bed. I wanted to know more, but Jack would not budge. Maybe if he'd told me what she had said, it would have scared us enough to turn back. No, it would have only made us more eager to figure out the truth. That's just the kind of people that we were. We went to bed shortly after that. The next morning, we were all up early. We packed our things and headed towards the meeting spot Roberto told us to wait at. You sure this is legit? Ryan asked. Positive, I replied. Another cool thing, the closest you'll get to an ancient Roman festival. They kept it pretty accurate. Ryan nodded as a light blue, small four-door car pulled up to the street corner. Ciao, an older man called out from the driver's seat. You are Chloe, yes? That's me, I stated. It's nice to meet you, he smiled. For those of you who don't know, I'm Roberto. We went down the line, introducing ourselves as we got in. Jack had said something to Roberto in Italian, which had caused him to erupt in laughter. So, how long until we get there? I asked. 3, maybe 4 hours. I hope you're comfortable, Roberto informed us. We traveled for a while, making small talk the whole way. From what I could gather, the small village had spoke Latin still, though they also knew Italian. About 4 hours later, Roberto parked in a field. That had made me nervous. "Where's the village?" Beth asked. "It is up the trail. They don't like cars, so from here we walk," Roberto answered. We all got out and then grabbed our equipment and luggage. The hike to the village had left me wishing that I had packed lighter, and I'm sure the others were too. The only upside was the beautiful view surrounding us. When we had gotten to the village itself, I was even more amazed. There were fields of wheat, corn, vegetable gardens, orchids, grazing animals, a large pond, and stone buildings scattered all around. Beth had taken the opportunity to snap a few photos, and Ryan recorded the landscape. "Let's get our opening piece," I began as I lightly brushed my hair. Ryan handed me a microphone and counted me down. "This beautiful land is home to a small village without a name, one that many don't even know exists," I began. "But somehow, the ancient Roman ways have thrived here, and it's virtually untouched by modern society. These people have so kindly allowed us to come and observe an ancient festival, the Irella. It's a 7-day festival in dedication to the goddess Ceres. As you can see, the families that reside here are busy preparing for the week." We hiked down to the village, which was actually pretty crowded. The women were wearing white and the men were wearing different colored tunics. Beth was snapping pictures left and right, especially of the men and women riding around on horseback. "There is no electricity here," Roberto stated. "Only candlelight." "Good thing we brought a lot of extra batteries," Ryan stated. "Come, I will lead you to the house you will be staying in," Roberto continued. Roberto brought us to a small building, inside of which was an older woman who welcomed us with a smile. The boys were sent to one room, and Beth and I to another. The older woman gave Beth and I white dresses, and spoke to us in Italian. "This is Gilia. She says the women wear white during the festival," Roberto informed us. "It's to honor the daughter that Ceres lost." Beth and I nodded, and quickly changed. Soon all of us had met up again in the house's common room. "Nice outfits," Ryan commented as he adjusted with his gauges. Gilia shook her head and mumbled something while looking at Ryan. She then returned to working on fake bread, an easy-to-make grain-based substance they used as a sacrifice to Ceres. "She doesn't like your piercings," Jack laughed. "Well, gauges and nose rings aren't for everyone," he replied. "The white is for Ceres' lost daughter," Beth stated. "Let's get recording," I ordered. We filmed a small segment and tour of Gilia's house before we headed out into town. From what I gathered, the festival was just a large party for the whole village. On the first night, they would hold the race of the foxes, and they would also routinely sacrifice pigs. Ceres was not a fan of them, as legend has it they would destroy her crops, and now they would eternally pay the price. They would also hold chariot races, give offerings to Ceres, play music, play ancient carnival games, put on public performances, and of course get drunk. As the day went on, we were able to lock in an interview with a priestess. She was one of 4. In total, there were 2 male priests and another priestess, but they were busy tending to the festivities. "What can you tell me about the festival?" I asked. "Why do you celebrate?" Jack was kind enough to translate both ways. "We do it to honor our goddess, and in return, our goddess honors us," Jack answered. "Because we have vowed ourselves to her. She keeps us safe. We have water while others have droughts. We have food where others have famine. We have close families while others drift apart. We love our goddess, our mother, and we know that she loves us. We are truly blessed." "How do you divide the land up between citizens?" I went on. Who does what? These lands are not ours. We just live on them. Jack translated. It all belongs to our goddess. We all do our part to respect it and each other. We keep everything running by working together. We interviewed a few other citizens, but they all said different versions of the same thing. They were all blessed to live on their goddess's land. I think it was around noon that day when we caught more controversial footage. There was a boy, probably 15, being whipped publicly. What the hell? Ryan murmured as he began to record. I winced as I watched. Beth had wanted to do something, but Roberto stopped her. This is their way, Roberto informed her. Don't get involved. He broke one of Sari's laws. He's lucky that he's still underage. His father's fate is much worse. Come, let's get ready for tonight. Roberto ushered us away despite our complaints. Later that night, Gilia had served us dinner. It was meat, bread, and vegetables. According to Robert, the meat was pork, but there was something off about it. Once we had finished and cleaned up, we went to view the race of the foxes. Gilia handed Beth and I torches before we left, and said something to us. The women carry the torches, Roberto informed us. That's also in honor of Sari's lost daughter. Our group headed down to the large field, where a crowd had already begun to form. Because we were doing a story on the village, we were able to get a good view in the front. At one end of the field, there were 6 foxes lined up. Burning torches had been tied to their tails, which were causing them discomfort. Isn't that animal abuse? Beth remarked as she took a picture. I suppose, but it's a time-honored tradition, Roberto answered. When in Rome, I guess, Ryan said as he began to record. This is the race of the foxes, I stated into the camera. It is meant to punish the foxes for their wrongdoings against fairies. As the story goes, a fox had once stolen her sacred chicken. A farm boy, having caught the fox, tried to set it on fire. The fox managed to escape, running while still burning. This is one of the darker tributes to their goddess. They released the foxes and we watched as they ran off into the darkness. Behind them, the crowd was cheering and placing bets on who would win. The rest of the night consisted of loud music, drinking, dancing, and eating street foods. As it grew later, a pig was brought down from the barn. 2 men were pulling the pig towards a marble altar in the town square, but it was resisting. It kept pulling back from the farmhands leading it. Eventually, they were able to get it on the altar, but it still struggled against them. It was like it already knew what was about to happen. With a quick swipe of a knife, one of the priests cut its throat. It let out a loud squeal, causing Beth to look away. Afterwards, the townspeople lined up to place their offerings. Even Gilia placed her fake bread. You get all that? I asked Ryan. You bet, he replied, still recording. I nodded and I looked at the large wooden barn in the distance. I could hear more frightened squeals coming from the other pigs. There was something underneath the animals' panicked cries though. Something that sounded almost human. I had woken up later than I wanted to that morning. Thankfully, I hadn't missed much. After I had gotten dressed in another white tunic, I had met up with the others in the house's common room. Gilead had prepared breakfast. It was eggs and bread, along with some fruit. Tell her thanks, Jack, I said groggily. He translated for me and Gilead smiled. We got a lot of great footage last night, Ryan commented. Yeah, hopefully we get some more today. They're doing chariot races in the field, Jack added. I can't wait to see the horses in action. Thus started. I would like to see something positive for once. I don't know how positive a chariot race is gonna be, Ryan blurted. I mean, haven't you seen any of those movies based on ancient Roman times? They were actually pretty dangerous. Don't burst her bubble, I yawned. Hey, I'm just trying to prepare her, Ryan shrugged. It's better that she knows the truth, Jack added. I can handle it, Beth exclaimed. I'm just getting tired of, violence. I thought this was gonna be fun. Well, that's journalism for you. You never know what can happen, Ryan said with a mouthful of fruit. We headed out into town and began to document the events of the day. It was late afternoon when the chariot races were said to happen. We had made our way to the fields and began to set up. Ryan counted me down as he started to record. Today, on the second day of Irella, the chariot races will be held. You can sense the excitement in the crowd as they ready themselves for the event. Many are placing bets already based on last year's winners. Drinks are being poured. Foods are being shared. This truly is a cheerful celebration for them. I finished. Our next stop was to record interviews with those who had entered the race. The first man we spoke to seemed to be a bit older than the rest, but nonetheless, he was still hopeful. Forget those others, they are boys. Jack translated the man's words for us. What it takes to win this race is skill. It takes knowledge of the track, and knowledge of what your horse can handle. I'm confident that I will win. The next contender was a younger boy, who seemed to be equally excited. This is my first race, Jack continued to translate. I've been preparing all year. I don't expect to win, but I'm hoping to be one of the first 3 to finish. And then I will know that all of my efforts have been worth it. We recorded the race from the front row. The field it was taking place on was downhill from us, which gave everyone a clear view of the chariots. The first lap was walked in order to introduce those racing that year. With the next lap, the races began. The crowd chanted as the chariots took off. After a minute or two, the first of the chariots had a tumble. It was no surprise to the crowd that it was the younger boy. He narrowly missed getting run over by another chariot, but soon he limped away and his horses were escorted off the track. The winner was a man that we hadn't had a chance to interview, but the older fellow that we had spoken with earlier had come in a close second. The rest of the second night was pretty much like the first. Dancing, music, drinking, etc. Again, the citizens sacrificed a pig. This time, it was pregnant, and again their offerings were left at the altar. I sent Beth and Jack to do some independent work, and I sent Ryan out to record some of the events while I took notes. When I had found Ryan again, he was clearly drunk. Man, this place isn't too bad, Ryan slurred as he bumped into me. What the hell, man? You were supposed to record the party, not join in. I growled. Take it easy, he mumbled. It's the same as yesterday. What am I gonna miss? I shook my head and I rubbed my temples. Go back to the house, I ordered. You can't tell me what to do, Ryan responded as he handed me his camera. Here, take this. I quit. You're way too drunk. I know because that's the only time you're ever this annoying, I snapped. Seriously, get back to the house. I'm trying to be professional here. Nah, no way. I see one of the girls making googly eyes at me. I think I'm gonna go for it. He smiled as he pushed past me. Damn it, I muttered as I went to find Jack. I didn't have to look far. He was interviewing a few of the older residents nearby. Jack, I interrupted. Can you please help me deal with Ryan? He's drunk. It was a bad idea for me to leave him alone. It's not your fault, he's a grown man. He shouldn't need a babysitter. Jack sighed. Where is he? I don't know, I answered. That's not good. Jack mumbled as he looked off into the distance. What? I asked as I turned around. I saw what Jack was seeing. There was Ryan leaning on the altar, eating fruits meant as offerings for Ceres. It seemed as we weren't the only ones to notice. It was as if the whole village had gone quiet. Oh no, I began. Didn't you read the freaking letter Roberto sent? Hey guys, Beth said as she approached us. Is something wrong? Look, Jack responded. We watched as the outraged citizens began to yell and throw drinks and food at him. A couple of furious men had grabbed Ryan and held him down as he struggled. The three of us had tried to get to him, but Roberto intervened. I wouldn't do that if I were you, he told us. One of the priestesses had approached Ryan, holding a wine glass filled with a light green liquid. She spit on Ryan as she said something that even Jack could not translate. Pig, Roberto informed us. She said pig in Latin. The two men holding Ryan down had opened his mouth for him, and the priestess poured the green liquid down his throat. He had spit out some of it, coughing and choking, but she had only poured more. Shortly after, they dragged him up to the barn. It was silent as the priestesses had turned and prayed at the altar, again speaking Latin. The crowd echoed her words, and moments later, the party resumed. What's going to happen to him? Beth asked. He's going to die, Roberto answered. You better get back to the house. The crowd is drunk and angry. Who knows if they'll turn on you too. We can't just let them kill Ryan, I exclaimed. It's too late for him, Roberto said urgently. We need to go, now. Roberto brought us back to the house. He shook his head as soon as we made it inside. I am sorry about your friend, he began, but there is nothing that we can do for him. I don't believe that, Jack put in. Just stay here tonight. Let me speak with them. I don't want you all to be considered a part of the guilty party, Roberto continued. For your safety, promise me you'll stay put. Gilia is a friend of mine and she will keep you safe. If they decide you are just as guilty as Ryan, however, she will side with her people. Oh my god, Beth began to freak out. Why does Ryan have to be so dumb? I will be back, Roberto informed us as he laughed. Well, are we just going to wait around here or are we going to do something? I asked. What can we do? Jack replied. We're outnumbered, outmatched. I think we should listen to Roberto. If we distance ourselves from Ryan, maybe they won't group us together. I can speak in our defense. I can say he was just someone we worked with, but we don't condone what he did. So what? We throw him to the wolves? Beth questioned. Jack frowned. Ryan made his choice. The letter Roberto sent Chloe was pretty clear about how he needed to respect their culture, or else. I wanted to argue, but Jack was right. Still, I wasn't going to give up so easily. I was going to find Ryan one way or another. I waited until everybody had fallen asleep. I sneaked out the bedroom window and I prayed that I didn't wake Gilia. Thankfully, she along with a lot of the villagers were in an alcohol-induced slumber. I managed to creep my way up to the barn that I had seen them drag Ryan into. There were a few men standing guard, but they were passed out from the night's festivities. I didn't want to risk waking them, so I sneaked around back. The smell of animal feces hit me. I covered my nose as I slowly opened the barn door. The pig squealed at the sound. I froze in place, but after a few seconds, I was confident that no one heard me. I wandered in the barn, looking through the stalls. After passing a few, I had heard a man's labored breathing coming from one. I crept inside and I waited for my eyes to adjust. "Ryan," I whispered. "Ryan, please let that be you." "Chloe?" I heard a raspy voice ask. "Yes, it's me," I answered. "We're getting out of here." "I can't move," he croaked. "Oh God, it hurts. It hurts so bad." I squinted and finally, I was able to see him clearly. He wasn't Ryan anymore. He was something grotesque. He was on all fours, the palms of his hands now hooves with useless fingers sticking out. Ryan's heels had started to turn too. His body was swollen, and his skin stretched to accommodate. One leg looked broken and limp, while the other was holding his weight. His ears had moved towards the top of his head, and his eyes were further apart. I almost gagged at the sight. "Kill me," he begged. "Please, kill me. It hurts, Chloe." I backed away, unsure of what I was looking at. "Chloe," he said louder. "Kill me." With his desperate shouts, I had heard the guards awaken. I began to run back the way that I came, praying that they hadn't seen me. "Don't leave me like this," I heard Ryan call out into the distance. I kept going, running as fast as I could, hearing pigs squeal behind me. I made it back to the house to find Beth waiting for me. "Where were you?" she whispered. I didn't reply. What I had seen left me unsettled and horrified. All I did was shake my head. Beth and I did not sleep that night, and the next morning, Jack had met us in our room. I still hadn't moved from my bed. "Are you okay?" Jack asked me. "She hasn't said anything since last night," Beth stated. "She left, and when she had come back, she was like this." "You left? Are you crazy? They could have killed you," Jack exclaimed. "They didn't." I finally spoke. "Well, did you find Ryan? Is he okay?" Beth questioned. I paused. I wasn't sure if I should tell them what I saw. I didn't even want to repeat it. I did find Ryan. He was changed into something. To make matters worse, I just left him there, suffering and alone. "He's dead," I lied. No. Beth's voice trailed off. "God, I'm sorry you had to see that," Jack said softly as he put a hand on my shoulder. "I am too," I replied. "More than you know," I thought. I turned when I saw Roberto enter the room. A solemn look was on his face. We all waited for him to speak, fearful of what news he might bring us. "They said that they will let you live," Roberto began, "but not without conditions." "What conditions?" Jack scoffed. "The priests say Ceres doesn't forget easily," Roberto answered. "You must work for the goddess's forgiveness. You have to stay to help tender lands." "I can't stay," I croaked. "I can't." "You don't have a choice. Come now. They are sacrificing the pig early today," Roberto began. "You need to look like you care." I couldn't stop the tears from rolling down my cheeks as we got ready for the day. I was still shaken to my core. The idea of staying in that village another second made me sick. The three of us headed out to view the sacrifice full of sorrow and fear. I didn't make eye contact with anyone. I wondered if the villagers all knew what was going on in the barn. They must have. I watched as they brought the pig out, only for my stomach to drop. The pig had Ryan's gauges and his nose ring. I could feel Beth grab my arm. "They put his piercings on the pig. Why would they do that?" she whispered. "Is this some sort of sick joke?" I was silent. I knew now what Ryan had turned into. I should have known all along. The priestess had called him a pig after all. Beth averted her eyes as one of the priests cut its throat. He then turned to the crowd and made an announcement. He said, "That's the pig they'll be serving during the performance tonight." Jack translated flatly. "That's right. They're putting on a play in Sari's honor," Beth remembered. It took everything I had not to throw up right there. After he got back to the house, I waited silently for Gilia to head down to the fields. As she did, I turned to Roberto. "I need to speak with you alone," I informed him. "About what?" Jack questioned. "It's none of your business," I snapped, clearly on edge. Jack and Beth had no objections following my outburst. I brought Roberto into the bedroom and made sure the others weren't eavesdropping. "You saw what they do to those who disrespect Ceres, didn't you?" Roberto asked. "Yes, I saw it. That wasn't just a pig," I began, my voice shaking. "That was him, and they expect me to eat him. I can't stay here, I won't, and you know that. How can you even be around these people?" Roberto sighed and was silent for what felt like an eternity. "When I came here, I was a lot like you. I wanted to know everything," he exclaimed. "Perhaps some places are better off hidden from the world. I will help you." "You better be serious," I hissed. "If you get me turned into a pig, I swear to God I'll escape just to maul you to death." "You can trust me," he affirmed. I let out a breath of relief. "Thank you," I muttered. "Come on, we'll discuss a plan with the others," Roberto replied. We had gone over how we would escape 3 or 4 times. During the performance, everybody would be distracted. The 4 of us would need to leave halfway through the play, when the villagers were most likely to let their guard down. We would only need to make it to the outskirts of the village, as those who resided wouldn't dare leave during the festival. It would be a dishonor to Ceres to leave the village before her celebration was over. If we could just make it that far, we would be home free. Our equipment would have to be left behind, but that was a small price to pay for our freedom. Roberto warned us that, since the villagers were on edge, some would be armed with bows. He told us to keep that in mind. That night, we were ready. The 4 of us gathered in the town center with a large group of the village residents to watch the performance. It was about Ceres' origins, but I wasn't paying too much attention. I was nervous. About an hour into the play, I looked around. Everyone was deeply enthralled in the story. I then turned to Roberto and he nodded. Quietly, I stood up and I began to head towards the back. One at a time, the others followed me, and soon we had made it to the edge of the crowd. "Do you remember where I parked?" Roberto whispered. Jack, Beth, and I nodded, and silently, the 4 of us headed back to the way that we came. It wasn't long before the villagers had caught on to our plan. My heart skipped a beat as we heard a priest yell at the crowd. "Run!" Jack shouted. The villagers were fast. It took everything I had just to stay ahead of them. My adrenaline was pumping and my heart was pounding as they began to shoot arrows. They missed me only by a centimeter, their projectiles flying right past my head. I paused when I heard Beth scream from behind me. I turned to see that an arrow had punctured her leg. But before I could get to her, Jack grabbed my wrist and dragged me forward. "No time! They'll both die!" he yelled as I watched them tackle Beth and pour the light green liquid down her throat. "Hurry!" Roberto called out. I felt an arrow graze my arm and I cried out as I ran. "Just a little further," Jack urged me. As we reached the clearing, I realized that they were no longer chasing us. Arrows were still being shot, but somehow we managed to avoid them. Soon, we'd made it to Roberto's car. The three of us got in, slamming the doors behind us. "What about Beth?" I sobbed. "She drank the elixir," Roberto explained. "Her fate has been sealed, just as Ryan's was." "Poison?" Jack asked. Roberto opened his mouth as if to say something, but no sound came. Instead, he closed it and he started the car. "An awful one," I spoke mournfully. "God," Jack whispered. "Please, just get us out of here." As soon as we were back in the city, we told the local law enforcement what had happened. Even though we pointed out the village's location on a map, for some reason, they were unable to find it. They of course thought that we were responsible. However, with a lack of evidence to tie us to anything, they let us go. Beth and Ryan are still considered missing. Jack and I booked the next flight home, and Roberto told us that he was moving to London, and I haven't heard from him since. Jack and I don't talk about what had happened, and it's for the best. To this day, I can't get the image of Ryan mid-transformation out of my mind. My heart breaks knowing the same thing happened to poor Beth. The thought haunts me, and I'm still plagued with the nightmares. I wished I had never found that village, but you can't change the past. I know dwelling on it won't do me any good. Living in it, however, might just be worse.